navigating the Bitcoin bull market successfully can change your life. And, I try to not be like hyperbolic. I try to just talk stream of consciousness just like I do to my friends. And it's not the only thing that can change your life, but I don't think it's crazy to say doing the Bitcoin bull market correctly can make a significant difference in your life and set it up way differently than the current track that you're on. The reason for that is because Bitcoin is such this interesting intersection of like an investment and a currency at the same time. That's why it feels so different. And especially because us here in the United States, we're not used to thinking about the world in like a multi-currency format. We don't have the baked in thing of like our currency is like inflationary and then there's a second currency, a second foreign currency that's like more stronger or whatever. Like we don't have that baked in. But because Bitcoin is so interestingly at the intersection of currency and investing, and because the environment of kind of the checking and the savings accounts where we're used to holding dollars are kind of getting blurred, like that's all happening and shifting in real time. And that's why navigating the bull run correctly can change your life. Because if your brain is able to adopt the new money, adopt the better money sooner than others, that's what's literally having like the baked in wealth compounding effect that like other Bitcoiners are experiencing and talking. What do I mean by USD checking accounts and savings accounts being blurred? Here's what I mean. Inside a checking account is just a pass-through account. A checking account doesn't do anything for you other than receive money and send money. The interest rates on it are bad, and everyone knows this. Like that's where cash is trash comes from, or at least part of where cash is trash comes from. So checking accounts are just holding tanks for pass-through money, and all the money, all the stored labor, time, and energy that sits in them is dead and not doing anything for building wealth for your family. It's actually doing the opposite. It's actually losing ground. It's losing ground purchasing power wise, having that USD sitting there. So what do people do to combat this? They're all going to money market funds, and money market funds are all US treasuries under the hood. Okay. So whether it's Wealthfront or the Apple savings account or any of this stuff, or the Ally online savings account, like, which is positive. Like, look, holding USD in those accounts is smarter and better for wealth accumulation than holding it in dead checking accounts. It's actually proving the point. Like it's proving the point that no one wants to use a checking account to hold any of their labor for any amount of time. That's why checking accounts are continue being drained, and savings accounts are these like Wealthfront accounts, Ally savings account, all these things are like increasing. But then what's happening? You can pay bills out of the Ally savings account. Like that has an account and routing number. So what is the point of even having a checking account then? So there's effectively one single USD account. But one of the problems with some of the other like money market funds is you can't bill pay out of them, and that's the problem. And one current friction with Bitcoin right now is you can't bill pay out of it, okay? But realizing that Bitcoin is a better version of a money market fund is part of navigating the bull run correctly. It's part of understanding kind of what a USD unit is and your relationship to the USD unit, and then your relationship to the Bitcoin unit. And this is tough for a lot of people. It's tough because seeing the decimals like the 0.01, 0.21, like all that stuff, that doesn't feel as psychologically good as like watching the dollars like stack up in the savings account paying you once a month that like interest rate, right? But if you straight up compare the purchasing power of labor inside a Bitcoin account and the purchasing power of labor inside a like USD savings account, more and more times the Bitcoin account is going to win. And if you're able to experience that for yourself with enough kind of skin in the game or enough like labor, stored labor on the line, that is going to pave new pathways in your brain to not consider the dollar kind of the king currency in your life anymore. And that's the main, like, regardless of kind of everyone's personal finance situation is different, right? Everyone's income earning potential is different. All of that is all what it is. And this can apply to anyone at any level of savings and any level of income. Straight up, if you stop seeing USD as safe or stable as default and just see it as what it is a currency that is competing with all other assets out there. USD, Bitcoin, the S&P 500, USD treasuries, interior square footage real estate is all competing to store your saved labor. It's all competing to store your saved labor. And so that's why I'm not so hung up on like the return of That's why I don't like comparing like investments versus other investments, because I'm way more interested on just the bottom line competition between USD as default money and Bitcoin as default money. Mentally getting Bitcoin into its own asset category in your brain is what can change your life this Bitcoin bull run. That's what you need to focus on. Outside of the specifics of the day-to-day of your stacking goals or of what the Bitcoin news of the day is or what the exchange rate of the day is, mentally getting Bitcoin into its own asset bucket so you uniquely see it as it is, that's what's going to change your life. Because if Bitcoin is truly the like world-changing technology that it has been like proving itself to be and continually not dying, continually taking ground against lots of like legacy naysayers that continue falling down, then you on that path towards like realizing that is what's going to change your life. That's what's going to incentivize you to kind of take the next step of learning about the intricacies and the details of why Bitcoin hasn't died for as long as it has. It's going to get you into the weeds of understanding its connection to energy. And then you want to like go really deep, like Bitcoin's connection to energy and Bitcoin having a neutral monetary policy, not controlled by politicians. That is what is kind of causing it to not die. And that's what's causing lots of different factions of people, like corporate ETF people, like all the way like peer-to-peer electronic cash anarchists, like everything. Everyone is coming to grips with the neutral Bitcoin software, and the fact that it can serve both those two people is what puts it like fully into its own independent category. Because like name another thing in the world that serves the interests of like to the more opposing things than Bitcoin does. Like there isn't. And that's what's so interesting about it. And then when it's tied to energy, because the world like runs on energy, the world runs on, there's no positive future for humanity that uses less energy than we do today. We can talk about the source of the energy and like which ones are the best and all that stuff, and totally those are great details to talk about. Having a neutral money tied to energy production incentivizes people to get more and more creative with their energy production and to create more and more energy. That creating energy is going to lead to prosperity for the world. Like creating energy at lower and lower costs, as you're incentivized to do, because you have the base buyer of the energy will then be Bitcoin mining. That's what happens when you navigate the Bitcoin bull run correctly. Like develop your own like personal stack so that you can feel the upside of the world-changing effect of the software replacing the dollar, and then that incentivizes you to kind of understand all the details and all the intricacies that more and more people that have already researched it understand. Because here, I'll give you this. The number one best criticism against Bitcoin is that early Bitcoin holders will like be the new elite. That there's because I've talked to thousands of people over the years and I've watched Bitcoin videos all the way back since 2015. And that's the best criticism. The best criticism of Bitcoin is that the people who own a lot of Bitcoin are going to be the same as the like corrupt elite class that's in charge of the world right now. And it takes a lot of studying Bitcoin to understand that even though you hold a lot of Bitcoin, you do not have outsized control over the network the way you do in fiat. The way you do in fiat is if you own an outsized control of the fiat, then you do have outsized control over the world and the direction of the world. In Bitcoin, you don't. And that's because of lots of reasons. That's because of the hard cap. It's because of the way that any one person can run the software themselves. And if anyone changes the rules, they're no longer running Bitcoin. And the fact that even though some people are holding it in ETFs and choosing to hold it on exchanges and doing all that stuff, the fact that you still can hold it in your own wallet and hold it in your own phone, hold it on your own computer and send it to another person, and they can own a verifiable part of this hard capped worldwide network, like peer-to-peer with no middlemen, that is all happening in real time. And so it's this combination of you feeling the personal financial upside, you researching the like intricacies of like why the game theory of Bitcoin continues to work and why it does make the world more fair, even though there's been like so much baked in corruption of like other things that are supposed to like fix it, like politics and things like that. That's everything of how you navigate the Bitcoin bull run most effectively as possible.